Let's discuss Nzimande's remarks and the SACP centenary more broadly with political analyst Ongama Mtimka, who's joining us now live. Ongama, always good to speak to you. So Gwede Mandashe, speaking on behalf of the ANC and subsequently Blade Nzimande, both say that the alliance between the SACP and the governing party remains relevant. How useful is it in 2021 South Africa?
Well, the SACP took a strategic decision from shortly after its formation to be aligned with the broader national liberation movements in South Africa. First with the struggles of black workers as well as with the broader national liberation struggle. And I think that this is something that's continued out of a pragmatic realization about the challenges of organization building in South Africa, but also the strategic importance of alliances in being able to advance what its cause is. Throughout the history of that relationship, there has always been phases where it was felt that the party was a lot more influential in ANC politics and periods in which it was seen as weak. And I think that characterization has been the main feature of the SACP, and in fact raising debates about whether staying in the alliance has been important. I think that there's been benefits and costs for the party, but I think in general, it being an influence that keeps the ANC from veering off more to the right has been relatively effective, even during the time of Thabo Mbeki, by the way, because had it perhaps not been because of the agitations of the leftist members of the alliance, the slight shift towards, some expansion of social services on the part of government would from around the 2002, even though nominally so, would not have been witnessed, or the size of the social security of the South African democratic government would not have been that significant, perhaps, if there wasn't this pushback by the leftist allies of the ANC.
So here's the thing, as you say, even Gwede Mandashe today said you see the influence of the SACP through the ANC's policies, right? The SACP ideologically would be more socialist, more communist in its thinking, a classless society, which ideally would be for the benefit of all, but especially poor South Africans. In 2021, we sit with record unemployment. Inequality is the worst in the world. So the SACP can't really remove itself from the scene, can it, as far as the massive failure where you look at the suffering in particular of the black majority?
Absolutely, especially in the period after Polokwane. So the party was of the view that Polokwane represented for them a pathway towards socialist policy in South Africa, notwithstanding the allies within COSATU and some, for example, NUMSA, pointing out that the elusive Lula moment where Jacob Zuma's presidency back in the day would assume this grand leftist policy outlook and implementation was never going to be. The SACP still believed that they could still, work with Jacob Zuma and support him for a second term. So that obviously has led us to a destructive path. So you're quite right when you say they cannot sit outside of government and criticize from a point of view of somebody who's just an observer. They've been quite active in the kind of destructive political economy that we have witnessed since 2007. I quite agree with some of the things that he mentions in terms of the transformation of the financial sector, among other things. But the challenge for the SACP has been failure to take some of the programs that are noble that it has towards the level, up to the level of policy implementation at the level of government. And its alliance with the ANC hasn't delivered much in that respect.
So, Nzimande spent a lot of time talking about the violence at the beginning of July and the links to the incarceration of former President Jacob Zuma. He said the term radical economic transformation, that turn of phrase, has become somewhat dirty because people are using it for other means. He then also said the SACP is not linked to a RET faction in the ANC. It's also not linked, he says, to the CR17 or the Cyril Ramaphosa faction in the ANC. Is that an entirely honest reflection?
First of all, it's an important message that must be said, especially given the fact that the RET faction covers its agenda in revolutionary language. And leading up to Polokwane, it actually did gain currency along with Blade Nzimande and Zolin Zimavavi driving that agenda very strongly. So it's important for them to disassociate themselves with that agenda as it currently is, because it became quite clear that was more of a kleptocratic agenda as opposed to one of delivering leftist-oriented policy in South Africa. Well, I think it's for strategic reasons that they would not want to associate with the Cyril Ramaphosa faction. One, particularly because it's allegedly in cahoots with business. So from a strategic point of view, that's important. But also, the SACP has been conscious, especially Blade Nzimande, has been conscious of the critique that has been leveled against them. That in government they have been co-opted into a centrist ANC or even an ANC that is pro-business. So that's part of the defense, if you like, that he is advancing there. But from a political perspective, I think that they remain currently squarely in that faction. Whether that's right or wrong, that depends, in the Cyril Ramaphosa faction, and whether that's right or wrong depends on one's understanding of what the broader agenda that is at play currently and ideological persuasions as well.
In 30 seconds, can Blade Nzimande call out other people for poor leadership when he himself is wrapped up now in a fight with his former DG who says Nzimande abused power and the rest of it, allegedly?
The reality of the matter is there's very few ANC or alliance politicians who can be able to do that. Most of them are throwing stones while they live in glass houses. But we still need people who throw stones in order to get South Africa away from the culture of, impunity and this sense of comfort with making political arrangements among themselves, which entrench the anti-rule of law logic.
Political analyst, good to speak to you. The people who throw stones keep you and I employed.